What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Terror Table, a horror movie podcast presented by the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I am your host, Mitch, and today Buzi and I are joined by returning guest, longtime friend, and all-around horror fanatic, Alexis Olynyk. Alexis was last on when we discussed and reviewed The Nun in 2018. And today we are discussing Alexis's film pick, 2014's The Voices, which is a black comedy horror starring Ryan Reynolds, Anna Kendrick, and Gemma Arterton. We of course spend the first hour of this episode catching up with Alexis and hearing about the many genre titles that have stood out to her over the last few years, including a video game and an anime series. We had a blast hanging out with Alexis, and we really hope that you all enjoy listening to this episode. Next week, I will be welcoming our friend and fellow podcaster, Chris Hurtado of the Inside the Sequel podcast to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong, which hits theaters on streaming on March 31st, which is the day after this episode is posted. You can also expect to hear both Buzi and I on the Inside the Sequel feed over the next few weeks. Buzi and I recently joined Chris for an episode on Roland Emmerich's 1998 Godzilla, which should be dropping within the next week or so. We also conclude part 3 of our Fantasy Oscars draft with Daniel Epler of Cobwebs, a Gothic Cinema podcast, Chris Hurtado of Inside the Sequel, and myself. So if you haven't listened to any of those episodes yet, part 1 is on the Cobwebs feed, part 2 was on the Terror Table feed just a few weeks ago, and part 3 will be on the Inside the Sequel feed. Another quick reminder that you can save 10% off your next order from FrightRags.com by using the promo code TerrorTable10. Fright Rags is the best place on the internet to find high-quality and unique horror apparel. Visit their website at fright-rags.com and grab yourself some new horror threads today. Last but not least, we'd like to share a few words from this week's sponsor from DirectWest.com. Direct West is a proud partner of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. Are you a business owner looking for new avenues to promote your business? Direct West digital billboards are a great opportunity to highlight a new product, new promotion, or anything else you'd like your customers to know about. You can get local expert marketing help for your business at directwest.com. And with all that out of the way, enjoy this week's episode of The Terror Table with Alexis Olynyk talking about 2014's The Voices.
Sing a happy song, sing a happy song. Why don't you sing along, sing a happy song.
And we're back at the Terror Table. I am one of your hosts. My name is Mitch, and with me, as always, or usually, I got my boy.
It's Buzi.
Buzi's in the trap. And this week, we have no Kyle, but we are joined by our longtime listener, longtime friend, Alexis Olynyk, all the way from Vernon, British Columbia.
Beautiful Vernon, BC.
I got it right? You are in Vernon?
Yes, yeah. I did a hop, skip, and jump from Saskatchewan to Alberta to BC was my ultimate goal, and I made it.
You also missed the part where you went to Japan for a year.
Yes.
that was all.
That was in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, but that was all within the time frame of us becoming pals. And you came on the podcast once back when we still had Diego at the table, and I believe we did.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was The Nun. We recorded the day after The Nun came out.
Yes.
But today we're going to be talking about one of Alexis's picks, which is The Voices from 2014. So we'll get all into that in the main feature. But before all that, let's do our normal thing. Let's catch up. Let's talk. It's been a while since Buzi and I have talked this way as well. I know, Buzi, you had a surgery last week?
I'm 10 days from having surgery.
You look great. It was on your face, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got my nose reconstructed interiorly.
What?
Just all the cocaine?
I broke my nose when I was a kid and never got fixed. So, I couldn't breathe out of one nostril. So they fixed it all up for me.
Wow, I just thought you looked different on video.
Yeah, no, you're looking good. I had my neck cut open yesterday. So we're talking as I have some... I thought I was going to have 1 or 2 stitches, but I guess it's 8. And it was pretty rough, to be honest with you.
We can't see it. So I want to tell you look good, but then I'd be lying because I can't see it.
I don't look good. I dimmed my exposure on my webcam
you're
today.
Beautiful. You're giving us what would that be? A two-face right now. We have the evil side of Mitch.
Okay, is that what's happening? Because is that better?
There you go. Yeah, I was only getting half of your face.
I didn't realize. Sorry?
You don't sound like you just had a throat surgery. Like,
No, well, to be fair, it was external. It was like I had a surgery a couple of years ago that was internal in my throat. And then there was like when you heal certain ways, sometimes it just doesn't heal properly and they have to like cut stuff out. It's really gross. But we are a horror podcast, so I guess you guys are used to being grossed out a little bit.
This is welcome to the recovery podcast. We're going to talk about how we're recovering right now.
Yeah, and actually, like while we're at it, we can just say that Kyle, the reason he isn't here is because he's currently healing from his circumcision that he had promised when he joined the show that he was going to get it done. And
yeah, you know, during the
No
Christmas
fucking
break,
way.
we chipped in a couple bucks and we said, Kyle, like, we're not doing another year of this.
it was only $220. We couldn't have him out there. We couldn't have him out there, like, you know, representing us with a full hood. That's just.
I do not even believe you guys right now. Are you serious?
No, it's probably a good idea not to believe us. It's definitely not serious.
I'm glad that we seemed compelling about it, though.
No,
Yeah.
no. I don't know if you guys remember, but you actually titled the first episode that I was on. You titled it. Did you title it "Never Been Snipped"? Or no, it was something else clever. Because
something offensive.
you
when we
did.
used
You
to do
did
that.
ask me
Yeah.
that question.
And yeah, we found out that you, in fact, do not have a penis, so you weren't able to answer that question.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown, honestly.
Yeah.
But either way, how have you been otherwise, Alexis? It's been a while since we've talked. I think the last time we saw each other was when we were in Calgary for Hex, like the horror convention.
Yeah.
And you and Gavin came over, and I think we were all super stoned on the couch watching Texas Chainsaw 3D.
That's about right.
I actually remember you guys watching. What's that movie called? I haven't actually watched it. Terrifier, is that it?
Oh yeah, Terrifier.
I remember you guys were very, very excited about the scene where he chainsaws her in half, starting from the badge.
Rightfully so.
Whoa, spoiler alert.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think I need to see this movie now. I'm okay. I'm okay.
And you're scared of clowns too. Maybe that's why we put it on, because I know that you have a clown reverse fetish. I don't know, my brain's not working.
And that was our Airbnb, like there wasn't like enough space for everyone, or did John just willingly choose? Like he slept on the floor like it was a trap house, and it was his birthday the next day.
That was okay. We got. I think we have to have told this story.
We have to have mentioned that.
But we're all sleeping in like big comfy beds, and John's the oldest guy there who should definitely have a bed. Like,
and we all love him. Yeah.
He's like, oh, no, it's fine. I'll take the floor. And we wake up to get ready to leave in the morning. He's sitting on his phone. He's like, oh, my phone just won't stop blowing up. We're like, why? He's like, oh, it's my birthday. Like, what the fuck?
You guys didn't even know. Oh.
No. It's like a big birthday.
At least the couch, not the floor, man. But...
Yeah, no, he had like his own little sleeping bag, and he rolled it out like Hobo Johnson or something.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's what a Hobo Johnson would do.
So was that before Japan or after Japan? How long ago was that?
That was after Japan. But yeah, either way, it was a good time, but it has been a long time. And now you're out in BC. How's that life treating you?
Oh, it's great. I'm loving it. I don't know. It was my goal, and I'm really glad that I made it happen. I made it out here. It's just insanely beautiful. Like I literally live on a mountain, like halfway up a mountain, and have like the most beautiful lakes I've ever seen at the bottom of the mountain, and am surrounded by forest. Like it's I don't know, it's like my dream kind of lifestyle and living. I don't think I can go back to living in a city after this.
Okay, so what are you doing out there actually? Are you squirrel whispering professionally?
Honestly, yeah. I work at a nature center, and like my title is like lead nature interpreter. So yeah, I literally take people on like nature walks and shit, and like just know my shit.
So you have to tell them what the bear's thinking when you walk past?
Yeah.
Like you have to be, you're the middleman, woman.
Or like, yo, look, that's some big bear shit. We probably should get out of here.
So you're part-time like shit expert as well. That's part of the job description.
Oh,
I also have to say, just living up there, have you heard any like wood knocking or like whooping, anything of that nature? Anything suspiciously Sasquatch like?
I have not yet, but I will let you know as soon as I do, and I will record that location.
It's because you're out there, you're keeping your eye out for the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch, but where you're not looking is for Nessie in the water. Everyone knows Nessie's down there.
No, here it's Ogopogo. actually.
Yeah.
Ogopogo.
We got Ogopogo and Okanagan Lake. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
always keeping an eye out.
Awesome. Cool.
So that's actually what you're there for, is just cryptid watching. This is all just like a front.
Yeah, are you gonna plan, because I can't remember if you're planning to do that in Alberta or BC. 'Cause
We're
I
still-
think it's Alberta.
It's going to be, the furthest will probably go is Alberta, but it's for sure going to happen in some way
Yeah.
with our boy Mitch. But yeah, I guess I'm going to quickly read an email from listener Elio, and then we can get on with the show if you guys are cool with that.
Yep.
All right, so this one, it comes from Elio. I believe he thinks that Kyle's going to be here for this episode, so bear with us. Hey, boys, hope you're all doing well. Boozy, happy recent birthday. When was your
Thank
birthday?
you. It was on the 2nd.
Okay, so it's been, okay. Kyle, congrats on the release of the new EP. Overall, congrats on 200 episodes and the special guest who I don't know if by the time you read this email has happened or not. He's flexing there because I gave him a little insider deets at one point, I think. So I
Are
just
you
wanted
just handing out insider information like that? I thought
Well,
the Terror Table was a fortress of solitude.
he's our boy Big L. Big L gets all the dirty deets, but he says, so I just wanted to throw my opinions on the Possession movies you watched. I watched it along with you guys and had a really fun time doing so. I enjoyed the conversation and thought you all made some good points. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I don't know if I would call this the modern classic like Mitch says. I thought this movie was honestly really slow. I enjoyed it, and the courtroom drama really added a nice dynamic to the movie that separated it from the others. It was an enjoyable watch, and while Deb sucks in Dexter, I thought she did a fairly well job in this movie. I thought the girl's reasoning for eventually dying was actually pretty interesting and led to a good film finale. The Last Exorcism. I love this movie. I always saw the title and thought it was just another exorcism film. However, it was a really fun take on the concept. I really liked the acting in it and the twists and turns. While the ending is absolutely bonkers, it did have me guessing the whole time, like, is this dad crazy? What's he doing? Is she possessed? Etc. I really enjoyed the oh shit moment when they realized the kid was gay. It was a cool moment. I do hope you guys talk about anything for Jackson at some point. I did last week. I was really surprised by that movie last year, and I enjoyed it a lot. The idea of a reverse exorcism is fun, and the scares were really fun. It might not be the scariest movie, but it's definitely a good time. Last but not least, I'm sorry for the huge email. You cannot talk about exorcism movies without talking about Taking of Deborah Logan. I think everyone needs to watch this movie. A really cool feature that depicts Alzheimer's, dementia in a fucking wild-ass way. My grandfather suffered from Alzheimer's, and when watching this movie, it absolutely shook me to my core. I know Mitch mentioned to me you guys have done this show on the pod before, but I definitely think if any of you haven't seen it, you absolutely need to. Sorry again for the giant rant, guys. Keep up the good work, and thanks for the hours of entertainment. Elio.
Thank you, Elio.
Yeah, thank you, Elio. Yeah, I think, Alexis, didn't you also recommend being like, could we do the Taking of Deborah Logan?
No.
Okay, that was just someone else I was talking to.
You're supposed to say yes.
Because we did do that. Yeah, we did that one a while ago, but I could have sworn that was one of your
And he's
suggestions.
totally right. That is an incredible film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these
Cool.
are all movies that I'm actually not familiar with, and I feel like, yeah, especially after listening to that episode, I feel like I need to go down a little rabbit hole of the exorcism movies.
There's some good shit there. Awesome. Well, let's get on with it. Alexis, what have you been up to in the horror world? Have you seen any cool horror movies recently? You keep in mind, it's been a long time since you've been on, so talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So I promise not to do to you what I did last time, where I was not prepared, and I literally just looked at my letterbox and was like, here's all the movies I've seen in the last year.
Yeah. Alexis told us every single movie that she watched. That was horror. Like granted, you kept it to horror. But
Yeah, I did. But this time I came prepared, and I just wrote down a couple that stood out to me.
Awesome.
So the last movie that I watched was actually this last weekend. Our drive-in theater opened early since it's pretty much ready. So Gavin and I went and checked out Freaky. So that was super fun. I kind of knew I was in for just like a fun drive-in experience.
What is Freaky about? Because I know we've kind of talked about it, but how did you experience it?
Okay, so I grew up watching like Rob Schneider movies, like Hot Chicks.
I think we all kind of grew up with that.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
So it's essentially Hot Chicks, but with like a serial killer twist. Or like a Freaky Friday version of where like a adult male switches bodies with a teenage girl. However, in this case, the adult male is a serial killer.
Right.
So the teenage girl becomes the serial killer, and the Vince Vaughn actually becomes the teenage girl.
Yeah.
So you kind of know you're in for a ridiculous.
How is Vince Vaughn's acting chops as a teenager?
They were great, actually.
Yeah.
Very convincing.
Did he put The Rock to shame?
Yeah, probably.
It's the highlight of the movie. We talked about this last week as well when Johnny and Jeff were on, and Johnny had seen it recently as well. And it's funny because we were talking about this off air, Alexis, but I also compared it to The Hot Chick with Rob Schneider. And but yeah, Vince Vaughn is just so good in that movie though. Like it's one that I've been trying to get Buzi to watch for months now.
I have a ton on my list right here.
Yeah.
So
it's not like I feel like the details are already fading from my mind, but it was it was a fun time. Like I had a time watching it. Yeah. So that was the last one. One that I watched recently that I was really, really glad that you guys recommended, because I don't know if I would have come across it or watched it on my own, was His House. Because I think, as you know, Mitch, I'm very into like the supernatural, especially like haunted house stories. And so I really, really enjoyed that one because it had a really interesting take on it.
Yeah.
So I really liked that one.
And it's genuinely creepy. Like the movie was actually scary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was for sure creeped out by that one. And that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the same with The Haunting of Hill House. I guess that would be like another within the same realm of one of the things that like genuinely like terrified me in the last year. So that was an amazing piece of work.
You'll be happy to know I've watched 20 minutes of it, and I'll eventually get back to it.
The Haunting of Hill House?
Yeah.
When did you start it?
It was like a 1 a.m. like, I'm going to watch an episode before I go to sleep, and then I just kind of went to sleep.
Yeah, it's
not Hill House's fault though. Like I want to clarify that.
Yeah, that was like probably one of my favorite things to come on the horror genre in the last couple of years. Like that first season was so good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like if it was like a movie, then I would be like, yeah, that's my favorite horror movie that's come out in the last 5 years.
Have you seen Dr. Sleep yet?
I have not yet. I am excited to see that though.
Yeah, I think especially if you like Hill House that much, I think you'll really enjoy it. It's awesome.
I also really enjoyed Ready or Not because I really enjoy, I think I've told you this before too, I really enjoy movies like Hush and You're Next that have come out recently. Just like that, female main character kicking ass.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always a fun time. Blood and Guts.
It's so crazy you're mentioning that movie, because did we not see that in theaters like a long time ago? Like it feels like I watched that in theaters when the pandemic wasn't happening, and it felt nice.
Yeah, well, it definitely wasn't happening at the time, but yeah, I think you saw it. We all saw it in the theater. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was when I just checked out like more recently, finally, because I missed it. I missed it in the theaters.
Hell yeah! Just wait, if you got a couple more.
Yeah, sure. If you guys want to go around.
Yeah, we'll switch it up. I'll pass it off to Buzi a little bit, and then I'll toss one in, and then we'll just kind of work our way back around. Give you a little bit of break so you don't have to just talk for 20 minutes. Buzi, what have you checked out recently? Save the one that you and I have both watched till last.
Whew. Okay, let's start off with something. I wanted to add this since we did our Possession series. I did a little bit of homework, and I actually checked out another Possession movie. And I wasn't expecting a lot from it, but I'll kind of just go into a little bit. So I watched, I don't know what year this came out, but The Possession of Hannah Grace.
Oh, yeah, that was 2019.
Yeah, and it has a very similar concept to like The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And while I feel like maybe prior Buzi would have just shit on it for that idea. But I think there is part of it that I kind of learned a little bit more, that sometimes like these scripts are just kicking around and they get greenlit because something else similar came out like that. So who knows? This could have been like a script that was around forever. And you know what? That's besides the point. I just want to talk about the actual film itself. Besides that comparison, it had some interesting things to do, I guess, in terms of using mirrors, which once again was a very Autopsy of Jane Doe thing. So once again, it's a little frustrating, but it had some fun parts there. It tried to tell an interesting story with a woman kind of dealing with her own troubles during a night shift while other things are happening. I think the actual body of Hannah Grace looked really cool. It did some interesting things, and it kind of spun out of control where it went from a possession movie to like the demon had like superpowers and you could like fight it and stuff, which is never a good route to go for those movies. I find once you turn it into kind of like it's physically just fighting with you, it kind of gets weird that way. Maybe that's just my own thing, but yeah, I wasn't too excited about it, and I none of it was scary.
You'll be okay, Buzi, because I was much worse. I'm much meaner on that movie than you were just now when I talked about it on the show. I feel a
little more harmonious with shitting on movies. I want to do it with a smile on my face.
Well, that's good. Because every movie has at least a couple things that, like, if you finish it, there was something in it that you liked. And
exactly.
I'm not sure, Alexis, if you're familiar with her, but I knew when I watched it. Did you ever watch Pretty Little Liars?
Not really.
No, okay, because I just know like pretty much everyone I know except for me and probably Buzi has seen that show.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
But the main actor in it, Shay Mitchell, she's the main. Yes. Yeah, she's the main in possession of Hannah Grace, which she was actually pretty good. Like I don't know for what it
know, like, yeah, and that's the thing is exactly she kind of had to do exactly what she did, and it's not her fault that none of it was scary. She tried to react to what was given, but.
It's just one of those things, even like excluding Autopsy of Jane Doe, which it's pretty much exactly identical to in story. We've seen so many of those exact movies, like Possession of Hannah Grace. It just kind of felt to me like, the shit that they just roll out and ship out of Blumhouse.
I always do feel like they're having a staff meeting and it's the possession of, and then there's a bunch of blanks. So they'll like toss darts. They'll be like, all right, it's, yeah, like Hannah Grace. All right, perfect. Let's put out a shitty story about it.
I loved The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I thought that was a great movie.
So good.
So you don't have to watch this other movie at all. It's just it's kind of like the Wish version of it.
Yeah, that's a very good example. Wish.com, people.
Yeah, shout out Wish. Still waiting on some orders.
Cool. Do you have a whole bunch today, Buzi?
Yeah, I got a lot.
Knock one more off.
All right. The next one I'll knock off because it's actually in the similar vein. I'm glad you asked me. I watched, and I know this movie's been out for a while, and I don't know why I decided I was going to watch it, but I watched The Curse of LaLorona.
You just watched the movie and you can't pronounce La Llorona?
La Llorona?
Yes,
you know what?
You go.
I just want to say that this movie, on a different note, because I know that it had a wildly bigger budget than the Possession of Hannah Grace. This movie is very shameful. It felt like it was put together of shiny objects in a room, and then they shipped it out. It felt so cheap, the story. I will say though, it had some very nice cinematography, so I'll give it points for that. And once again, it does follow the kind of those broken rules of not follows, but it has the similar path of broken rules of possession movies. This movie has no rhyme or reason for anything that La Llorona does. There's no definitives in terms of how you can, like, Mitch, you've seen this movie, right?
Yeah, and
I know it's been a long time.
But it's cool because, like, yeah, it's hard. It's easy to not get them mixed up because Shudder released a version called just La Llorona, and it's a completely different movie. And that movie is like close to a masterpiece. Like, it is so fucking good, and they do something really interesting with the La Llorona folktale. Whereas the Curse of La Llorona, it's just basically kids getting chased around for by the time that you do find out the reasoning, it just doesn't matter and it doesn't make any sense and it's just lame.
Yeah, La Llorona has very, like, I actually think that her kind of her story is an interesting idea, but they went to shit with it right after, because it turned into this interesting kind of curse to all of a sudden it was this demon ghoul doing whatever, and it is very much in that that Conjuring knockoff vein with
it's in the Conjuring. It's in the Conjuring universe.
It's unfortunate that we're seeing so many of these movies come out that do really feel like factory made, like they're, like you could slap on a different sticker for whatever. And
isn't Tuco from Breaking Bad? Isn't he the priest?
Yeah, and that's another thing is he comes in there and it really just feels like a paycheck from the moment he steps on there. And him fighting La Llorona at certain points, he makes up things and then immediately they don't matter, which is so frustrating. If you want to break your rule, give it at least 10 minutes to breathe. They literally break every rule that they had within 2 minutes of explaining it. And I know.
And it was when he's standing by the door, right? That's the only thing from the movie I can pretty much remember is that he starts it's just nonsense. It feels like one of those things where the story was being written as they were going. They're like, well, wait,
and
how the fuck are we going to get out of this?
The whole idea is to put the kids at risk, because that's the tale of La Llorona. She's going to steal your children, which is a cool idea. But she doesn't really do it. She kind of just lightly fucks with everybody, and it's really boring. And they really tried to go hard with this whole idea of I remember from the trailer of the stupid hands in the hair, kind of giving them a shower. And that's kind of that's from, is it The Grudge? That
they did both. They did it in the same year too, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly. And that's just kind of the problem is they put that in the trailer, this is going to be a real scary moment. And if that's kind of what you wanted to show is your big scare, this movie has so much worse to offer. And and I think that's the most frustrating part is, you've looked at so many of the people even that we've had on here who have been given so much less money and made much better. This feels so heartless at the end of the day. And I think that's kind of my problem with it. I know I'm a couple years late on shitting on it. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. But it is pretty much, that's a prime example of just what feels like assembly line teen horror movies.
I can't see, and we've talked about this before, I can't see anybody being this is my favorite horror movie. Because sometimes you can find those B-movie niches where people love them. I can't see anybody getting a La Llorona tattoo and being oh yeah,
it'd be pretty funny if someone got a Curse of the La Llorona tattoo.
It would be hilarious, and it sounds like something Jason would do.
Yeah, Kyle, step up to the plate. But how I want to end off that review though is seriously, man, if you're interested, I know it'll be tough for you after watching that, but the thing is Noah is made by a completely different group of people.
No, and that sounds awesome because I said, the root story is a great idea. That's a modern folklore tale just kind of updating itself.
Yeah, the Guatemalan La Llorona from 2019 is stellar. It's very, very good. But the thing is, it's more of a drama than even a horror movie. But that's why, especially if you're a fan of The Haunting of Hill House, it's that type of stuff for me is where it's the horror's there, but that's not the focus.
Right. And it's hard to even call, I know that sounds like a mean thing to say, but it's hard to even call La Llorona a horror movie.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that we're way too old for. And I think maybe everyone is.
I feel like we need to give it a break. Blumhouse can do some other shit.
Just to be clear, can you guys still see my full face?
You're very dark, but
it's just super dark, yeah.
Okay, I'll try fix that. But because I recorded a 3-hour Fantasy Oscars 3 the other day, and I didn't realize that apparently they could only see a quarter of my face the whole time. So I'm still getting used to my new webcam.
Oh, so instead of making fun of you like I did, they just remained silent the entire time?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just haven't gone live with this thing yet, But yeah.
Honestly, that's more their fault than yours at that point.
Yeah. So wait, you said this was in the Conjuring universe, this movie?
It's supposed
somewhere.
Supposed to be.
I think it was a failure, so I don't think they're going to be tying it in very much.
Yeah.
I assume that they're kind of going for eventually they're going to do a Super Smash Bros. Kind of crossover, and it'll just be all their shitty characters fighting.
Like Avengers, you mean?
No, they'll literally make a video game out of it.
Okay, I'm going to knock a quick one off because I only have 2 today, and one of them I know Buzi and I both saw, so we'll end off with that one. But one I keep in mind, this is a movie that just came out. I saw it a long time ago for the Film Fest reasons, but it's called Come True. So this movie is being released this year, 2021. I believe it just came out last week. But it's written and directed by Anthony Scott Burns, who also did Our House, which Buzi you really enjoyed, and I like that one as well. And he also did a segment in the anthology horror film Holidays. But this guy was also he's the cinematographer and the editor, and he even composed the damn thing. This Come True, his alter ego.
This guy is a Swiss Army knife, right?
He is. And his alter ego for music, he goes by Pilot Priest, and they composed.
Is this the guy I was talking about before? He has like a weird side project that he doesn't like talk about it.
Maybe. Oh yeah, maybe if it's Our House. But yeah, because I know he scored the movie as Pilot Priest, but he also had some help from the Canadian synth pop group Electric Youth, who are the people who released the song "A Real Hero" from Drive. Like, you know, the movie Drive, the main song. But anyways, they did that song. So you definitely have it's one of those movies that has that synthy score and kind of vibe to it. But it's set around a teenage runaway who takes part in a sleep study that leads her down a dark path into her own psyche. Julia Sarah Stone plays the lead, and she really sells this movie. Like, she was, in my opinion, the best part of the movie. But the overall tone felt like a teenage horror story treated with a straight face and done very well above average. The cinematography and atmosphere in this thing is pretty awesome, but I know a lot of people who saw this movie who just absolutely loved it, and I can see why. It seems to be like a logical tonal evolution for the people who grew up being fans of young adult horror. Like, you know, even if you're a fan of Insidious, and it's definitely not as it's not obnoxious in the jump scare department, which I'm not meaning that as a bad thing. When you make a movie like Insidious, jump scares, the more the better. But yeah, Come True, to me, it feels like the Blumhouse model, but of teen-based horror films, but without talking down to the portion of the audience that may be more well-versed in this kind of stuff and have seen similar ideas play out before. This is one of those movies that I have no idea how it would be received on a mass scale, but because I feel like it's slightly too experimental and, for lack of a better word, artsy for younger mainstream audiences. But I would also love to see more mainstream movies adopt this treatment of stories that could seem very hokey, but have a clear vision and approach it with a really straight face. So this thing, it kind of, in my opinion, it lands somewhere between It Follows and Jacob's Ladder. I don't want to scare.
Okay.
And that's the thing is, I don't want to scare people away with a Jacob's Ladder comparison, because that's a pretty heavy movie, but it really does play with some cerebral stuff that revolves around the younger protagonist and her dreams and what she's seeing in her dreams, and more so her nightmares. But I think, this movie is just full of some really cool ideas. There's elaborate VFX sequences of our main characters, nightmares and internal conflicts. But it's if I had any complaint, I would say it has a little bit of a sloppy ending. But I wouldn't be too hard on it for that, because I do know the people who I know who have seen it have really, really connected with it. And it's kind of just it's a cool little low budget indie movie that hopefully is going to gain a little bit of a larger audience. And I definitely think this is Anthony Scott Burns' best movie he's done yet. I liked Our House, but I think this is definitely an improvement. So I definitely recommend checking it out.
Well, that's some good praise out of that.
Yeah. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're into that, kind of more teenage based horror, but treated like it's treated, they talk to you like you're an adult. That's what I like about where you're watching stuff like Truth or Dare. It's there's nothing for people there who aren't going in to just see a stupid horror movie, I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, that was Come True. Alexis, what else do you got?
Ooh, The Devil All the Time.
Yes.
Ooh.
Got this as well, because I think, didn't you say you read the book, Mitch?
I did.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I almost want to read the book now, because that movie kind of blew me away, honestly. I was surprised that I didn't hear it talked about more. Maybe, I guess, just a little too dark and gloomy. I don't know. It's a very fucked up, depressing movie. But I think they did an amazing job with it. I think the cast did an absolutely incredible job. Like, obviously it has some huge actors in it and they're all amazing. I know you're a huge fan of Robert Pattinson. Is that how you say it? Pattinson?
Yeah.
But I already, for some reason, was like creeped out by him just as a person. Even maybe it's because of his creepy vampire portrayal in Twilight. He's just this weird stalker, but he just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and so that movie did not help with that.
No,
like,
not at all.
I will stay clear of him. If I was ever within the same vicinity, I would stay the fuck away from him. He freaks me out.
He'd make you cross the street.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's the thing. And I think why it might not have been like super widely loved or widely talked about is because, like you said, it is incredibly depressing. And it's a movie filled with like nothing but bad characters, like bad people, just all being surrounded by each other. And Robert Pattinson and a cast full of people who are all doing despicable things. He's the king out of all of them. Like, he's the worst in that movie. Like, his performance is amazing, but he is, yeah, it's hard to look at him the same afterwards because he has kind of a similar look to him in Tenet, and I'd watched Tenet after I saw that, and I was just like, you can't get there's a couple scenes in The Devil All the Time that you just can't get out of your head. And they actually cut back, obviously, that always happens with books, like you're not going to be able to fit a 300-page book into a 2-hour movie. But they definitely cut out some really gross and horrible things that happen in that story. And the movie's still so depraved and so like hard to watch and just criminally depressing. Like,
oh, I believe it. Oh man. Even like Dudley. Isn't that the guy that played Dudley in Harry Potter?
Yep. Yeah. He looks completely different because he's dropped looks like over 100 pounds.
Yeah.
But
very creepy. He did a great job too. And Tom Holland was absolutely incredible, obviously.
Stole the show.
I literally had only ever seen him in Spider-Man and all the Marvel movies. And so I was completely blown away by his performance even, and I will definitely check out anything he does now.
Totally.
Wow, made a fan for life right there.
Yeah, I think so. He did. Well, it just blew me away that I only saw him as that goofy kid from Spider-Man, and then it was a very serious, dark role for him. And
it's always fun to watch actors splash into other areas and see them add depth. I mean, not to like sauce on him because we recently had him, but like seeing Monroe Chambers going from, this guy I've seen on Degrassi because I hadn't seen Turbo Kid at that point, and then seeing him in Harpoon and going like, holy shit, this guy has so much more depth than anyone like expected, really.
Yeah. And Tom Holland really displays that in spades and Devil All the Time. He steals the show, and that's like one of those like career defining roles. It's totally showing that he isn't just Spider-Man. He isn't just like a little weak kid. He can play pretty much anything you throw at him. And because, he did such a good job in that role.
Yeah. Do you want me to hit another one or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Blood Quantum. Really glad you guys talked about this one and that I got the chance to finally check it out because very, very cool concept. And I think they did a great job of it too. So you guys have talked about it so many times, but just the whole zombie movie fatigue or just zombie fatigue in general, because it was video games, like comics, everything, right? And they found a way to take an interesting take or interesting perspective on it and just kind of turned it on its head. And I think that's, I got to watch it again. Like, yeah,
it's so good. That was, one of my favorites of the last year. Yeah. And I think, so keep in mind, I have conversations with a lot of people, and I've already been busted once with being like, wasn't that you who said you wanted to do this? But was it
I'll just
us?
say yes to everything now.
Yeah. I'm like 99% sure that I'm positive that it is you and I who are talking about zombie movies. Because like you were saying that like you had that fatigue as well, but then there were movies like Train to Busan and then The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh yeah. So that, okay. Yeah.
You're not just saying that. You're not just saying that was us.
I'm saying yes, but I'm nodding no. Just kidding.
Yes.
No, we for sure probably have had that conversation because I dove deep into zombie culture. Like I was reading the Walking Dead comics from almost the beginning. So I was in on the TV show from the beginning. I was in on I grew up watching 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead and played all the zombie video games too. Yeah. So I definitely reached that point. And then just those few movies just they're amazing. Like that, you still do amazing things with it. Just
shows like no idea is ever dead or overdone. It's like who can spin it into a fresh and interesting way. But Jeff Barnaby in Blood Quantum, he did just that.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna ask Alexis, are you like have you seen all The Walking Dead up to wherever they're at?
No, I fell off somewhere in the last. Oh, maybe not the last season. Maybe there's one more. I can't even keep track anymore. But
you were watching it longer than most.
Yeah, I feel like
I think I got like pretty close to the to the end. But I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
For those who don't know this,
I could.
We have talked about this on the show before, but Alexis has served as our intel on stuff like Riverdale, and I think The Walking Dead was there for a little bit, but it was like shows that we couldn't watch that you were still watching, that you're like, okay, I'll just tell you everything that happened. So we get messages being like, okay, this happens, Archie fucks this person. It's like,
oh man, yeah, I can't even. I almost made it through all of Riverdale as well.
You're a champ.
Kind of fallen off as well. But
did you watch?
Hilarious. It only gets more and more ridiculous as it goes, and it gets to the point where it's like it's comedic. It's like I can't believe they're taking it seriously. I don't think they are taking it seriously. I think they're just having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, which is like with that show, I think has kind of carved itself out as being a serious show to kind of go like a way where they add less depth, because who's left for we don't even have to talk about it, but did you watch the spin-off shows too? Like, how committed were you to the Walking Verse?
Not very committed. I'm very committed to comics. And so that's kind of like where I come in with these shows, is because since I'm so committed to the comics, I'm like interested to see where they take it. But yeah, I didn't really watch Fear of the Walking Dead or anything like that.
Yeah.
I didn't keep up with that.
Cool.
They did finish the comic series, though. I can tell you that. Like, the Walking Dead comic series is now officially done. And I think they did it with a lot more grace than the TV show.
Well, Kirkman's such a talented writer. Like, and I know that he had a lot to do with the show as well. But the thing is, like, I don't know. I've never been one to shame him for making it different than the comics, because he's already done that, and all these people already have the Walking Dead fever. They know what's going to happen, so he wants to switch it up a little bit. But I dropped off, I think. Well, I have the books right here. I like up to trade 19. So
that's
I
not
think
very far. I think it ended at like 32 or something.
Well, that's only
like 10 more trades, like 10 12 more trades. But I do plan on finishing at some point. I was collecting it week to week for a while, but I just had to stop. And it was never for lack of quality, though. That comic series stayed consistent the whole way through, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I read.
Yeah, I would say pretty much right till the end, just about.
Yeah.
It stayed pretty consistent. It was a good series.
What else you got?
Oh, well, what do you want? TV, video games, anime, comics?
Hit us with a video game.
Yeah, we missed that with Diego being gone. Not that Mitch doesn't play video games. It just felt like Diego always had something. So let's hear it.
Yeah, that's why I thought I kind of wrote down a couple just in case, because I kind of missed hearing about some anime or video games from him occasionally.
Yeah, totally welcome.
So, The Last of Us 2, actually, and I think Mitch and I maybe have talked about this a little already.
Yeah.
But that was definitely one of the last like horror video games that I played. And definitely emphasis on the horror, I would say. Like, this was probably the most scared that I have been, like, since I was a child.
Yeah.
Wow.
Playing that game is terrifying.
Yeah, there's some horrifying moments in that one, and there are in the first one as well. But I don't know. I felt like the second one just amped it up in almost every single department. Oh,
in every way, like with the visuals, with the story, with the zombies, just got even scarier and harder to beat. Like it was insane. And the story
I gotta play this game.
It's like, you gotta play it, because, man, I would suggest, even if people that aren't interested in playing it, or if you don't play video games, or it's a little too scary for you to play, like, I would highly suggest that you even just go and watch like an entire stream of the cuts, like just the cuts.
Oh, like a playthrough, or
Yeah, like a playthrough, but like if you don't want to watch the gameplay,
Right.
like just watch like all the story. Like just the story of it is absolutely incredible. And if it was like a horror movie, I
Right.
think like we would nonstop be talking about it as one of like the greatest horror stories. Especially within the zombie universe, right?
Yep, that's another one that just defied the expectations of what zombies are capable of. But like that, yeah, that game is just like, it's a true piece of art. And I'm happy that we've kind of been separated from the release of the game finally, because, you know, when initially things come out, everyone's so like super hot or super cold on something. And I was getting so fucking irritated listening to all the negative talk about that game, because none of it held any weight. It's like every complaint I've heard about that game has just come down to people just being shitty. It's actually just people who are like anti-PC police people, and it's just the game just it changed art in general. Like it's such a huge step forward, especially in video games, like one of the most toxic communities out there. So having people be faced with the decisions you have to make in that game, and the cutscenes and the emotions that you have to deal with. Like I did a whole episode on it. It's a masterpiece. Loved it. So happy you liked it too.
I agree. It is a masterpiece.
Cool. What you got? Some anime for us?
Yeah. So, thanks to Diego, I actually watched finally caught up on all the Castlevania anime. And I actually didn't play the video game much growing up. Like I kind of knew of it.
Did you have that lore as built? You didn't really have that built in the way like Diego had it.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea who anyone was. Like I didn't really know that much about Alucard other than he was a vampire. Like I feel like I didn't even know that he was Dracula's son. So that was that was an incredibly like well done anime. Like that was an amazing story, and I just got so hooked so fast, crushed it, and then like begging for more. Like I can't wait until they.
Yeah. Is it just 2 seasons?
3. I think.
3 seasons. Okay.
And everything I've heard so far, like, I mean, like from Diego, and I have other friends too that are like massive Castlevania fans, and that they have grown up with it and they know everything about it. And they said that they've done the anime has done an incredible job, that they've done a really good job bringing it to life.
Yeah.
So that's really cool because that doesn't always happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've also checked out recently the Promise Neverland. It's on Netflix if you guys are interested in watching it.
Okay, what's that? I've never heard of this. So what is this about?
So I really enjoyed it because I knew nothing of it going in. Like occasionally, if someone gives me a recommendation, I will just dive head first, not even researching it or knowing anything about it. And this was one of those situations where I got so thrown off because it starts out so wholesome, where it's I don't know what to call it. Essentially almost seems like an orphanage of some sort, where there's like, you know, like 50 children being taken care of by like one woman. And they're really, really loved, and they get play tag, you know, they have this beautiful, like huge acres of land that they always play tag on and like hide in the trees. So it just starts out like so cute and so wholesome. And then all of a sudden it takes a very, very dark turn when one of the kids is, once in a while, one of the kids kind of gets shipped off because, you know, someone's adopted them with quotation marks. So everyone's sad, like, oh, it's so sad, but you get to be like happy with the family now. And then some of the kids actually find out that child that was supposedly adopted to a family is actually being eaten by these demons. And so this orphanage is actually really just a farm. So it's essentially like what do you call it?
A slaughterhouse.
Yeah, it's a slaughterhouse. Exactly. So they're raising these children. They're trying to like push their brains because apparently you know, like the smarter they are and the more they work their brains, the better the better quality of like meat it is.
Right.
And
they're free range kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Corn-fed kids.
100%, yo, because I actually read the entire manga after, and they go into that where there's kind of ones that are more like labs and they're just being pumped out as meat, but then there's kind of like these free range houses where it's like the highest quality for like the demon royalty.
Right.
So it's essentially just like these kids figuring that out, the reality of the world that they're living in, and trying to escape and trying to take down this whole demon world that's just farming humans to eat.
It seems like a mix between Little Nemo. Do you remember that show, that movie?
Little
Not
Nemo?
Finding Nemo. Oh my God! It was this is another one.
Oh,
of those
was it one of those like offshoot movies?
No, it was a legit like animated movie in I believe it was in the 80s or 90s. I'll look it up right now. But it looks like a cross between Little Nemo and Sallow. 120 Days of Sodom. But no, Little Nemo. This is probably another one of those times where, oh shit, sorry, I missed Gavin.
Hi, Gavin.
There was, what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, I got a message from Cody Charleston, homie from Australia, because he was saying that he had like PTSD after he heard me mention Gary Paulson's Hatchet, like the book that everyone read, apparently, because everyone around the world read that in school. Which I didn't so I read it outside of school. That's probably why I liked it so much.
Like I read it like twice.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, he sent me a Snapchat. He was at his mom's house in Australia, in Melbourne, and he sent me a Snapchat of him downstairs being like, "All right, Mitch, I don't have one copy of Hatchet. I have 4." It was like he had multiple copies of Hatchet, and it's like probably from his brother having it in school too. Sorry, that was a tangent. But Little Nemo is probably going to trigger some things for anyone listening who does remember it, because I had not only this movie, but the original Nintendo video game for Little Nemo, and it scared the living bejesus out of me. I'm going to put the picture up. I don't know if you guys can see.
Can you pull it back a little bit?
It definitely looks familiar. I've just never seen it.
I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, it's wild. But okay, so Alexis, what's this one called?
It's called The Promise Neverland.
And you like it? It sounds like.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
What a sweet name when you actually when you explained the story. It's like, oh, it's kind of like a very insightful title. Also, I just want to say that it would be maybe not to its benefit, but if they did kind of like a one-off episode where Stuart Little was the one that got adopted.
Jesus.
Can you imagine him in his little car? He'd be like, bye, everybody, I'm getting adopted. And then you just shove a stick up his ass.
What does he have that I don't? Well, they don't eat ice.
They probably just step on him. These demons are giant. Like they're like, that's a snack, not even a snack.
I'm looking up pictures of it, and I think this is one that I actually want to check out. It's been a while since I've gotten into an anime.
It is a horror anime. Like that's what I'm into for sure. So it's good.
You'll turn Mitch into a weeb.
I already am a weeb.
I will feed you them all.
I am a weeb already, but I've been out of the weeb game for a couple of for 10 or 12 years now. But I was at one point full blown weeb.
The full weeb game.
Yeah. So this could be a slippery slope.
I'll send you a list.
Yeah. Let's come, because do you have more, Alexis?
Yeah, I still have some more I can talk about after.
Cool. Let's pass off to Buzi quick, and then I guess we could even talk about the one that we saw together. Well, we didn't see it together, but we both saw it.
Right. You know, I think that might be. I might save a couple with Kyle here, because I still have quite a few. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah. So let's talk about Saint Maud. So I know Buzi checked this one out as well. But yeah, this one's written and directed by Rose Glass. It's an hour and 24 minutes, baby.
Oh, it's crisp. Oh, it is. It gets in, it gets out, and it's done.
Yes. And it follows a pious caregiver who believes that God has given her the responsibility to guide sinners to salvation before their time on earth comes to an end. That was a synopsis written by me. By the way, I am reading synopsises, but I've been writing them on my own lately. I haven't just been reading the IMDb one.
You know what? It sounded like an IMDb, if that helps. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not good. I was trying to get away from that. I was like,
I thought you were trying to mimic it in your own cool way.
You'll always be able to tell when I'm reading it. But Buzi, what do you think of this movie, man? Because this is one. First of all, sorry, I know I always do this, but this is an A24 movie. This is a movie that seemed like it's been very polarizing on both ends. This is one that I've heard people say that it's a good movie, not really a horror movie. Now that I've seen it, I say, what the fuck is a horror movie to you if this isn't a horror movie? Yeah, I don't understand how this could be not a horror movie. But yeah, I don't know. I've heard mostly good things, but what did you think?
I think probably a lot of the reason, I'm just going to throw this out there as my guess, is a lot of the reason people were maybe thrown off of the story is you spend the majority of it with Maud herself, who is from the get-go, is the antagonist of the movie. So it's very interesting to watch that happen. And I think that might be a disconnect for some people is, you do learn a lot about Maud, and, not all of it is good, but, not all of it is bad either. And I think it really does an interesting story of showing the dynamic of what people are really like. I think that's the most interesting part of this movie, especially for the person that she's taking care of.
Amanda.
It is very interesting to see more of a true portrayal of people going through, stages of their life and how they're dealing with it. It's very interesting that way, and hits kind of a hard way, and then just goes it becomes very twisted with the horror elements involving, Maud. And I could say this probably is akin to something along the lines of like,
the Blackcoat's daughter.
I think this, I didn't want to directly say that one. I think this is probably a smaller, kind of a smaller version of that. Or I would say this is a little bit kind of like The Lodge in certain ways. Just who you're spending time with changes a little bit.
Much better.
I really like The Lodge.
I know. I fucking love
Sorry,
Saint Maud.
I didn't mean to steal all your airtime, Mitch. Hey, tell me how you felt about Saint Maud.
No, dude, I loved it, and I wasn't expecting to, but I really, really enjoyed this one. It's just like, it's a series of increasingly alarming events, steadily growing in severity as Maud is like pushed towards full blown horror. So the movie is like, it's really reserved for the first little bit, and I could understand, not every horror movies, even like some of the most classic horror movies you can think of, the first half hour, 45 minutes doesn't have a lot to do with horror. That's what makes it scarier, when things elevate and they get crazy at the end. And that's exactly what happens in this one. I thought that both leads were really, really good. Like, I wrote
they were very believable. I think Amanda, like, it honestly stole the show for me. She shows such a dynamic range as a woman dying. Like,
and she's played by Jennifer L, and then Maud is played by Morfydd Clark. But yeah, I just thought, like, the whole movie, like the dynamic between the two characters, both in their relationship and separately worsening conditions,
and also their lifestyles clashing. Living together, it is very interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just, like, overall, I felt like the film was very successful in what it set out to do. The atmosphere feels dull, and I mean that in a good way. Like, this is one of those ones where it's like, I kind of like how there's not like a lot of life on screen, because, we are dealing with someone who's terminally ill. But it truly ramps up towards something incredible. Like the scares and imagery in this movie are not going to be soon forgotten for me. Like, they may not look absolutely amazing and perfect, but it's the idea that I really enjoyed about it. Like, you see something pretty wacky, but just generally creepy. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed that. But I think if I had any negative to say about the movie, it's that it's another one of those movies that does deal with, centered a little bit around mental illness, which is something we're going to get into with the main feature. But, like, I feel like if you've seen enough of these movies where they are centered around someone who's mentally ill, the kind of trick that they wrap everything together with at the end of this movie has been in so many other movies. And that's like the only negative I could say about it, is that I'm like, I kind of knew exactly where it was going. And,
I was totally fine with the ending, honestly. It was kind of it's kind of what you expect, honestly.
Yeah, but that's what separates it from being, like, amazing to me. Like, I really, really like the movie, but I think that if they could have found a more interesting or, like, creative way to get past that barrier, like, it's impossible to talk about without spoiling, but I think if you've seen the movie, you kind of have an idea what I'm talking about. That when it comes to people who are hallucinating and then, like, they come to their senses and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's a tricky thing to talk about without spoilers.
I did love the escalation in this movie. Is I felt like every time another thing happened, I would just go like, "Oh, that's not going to be good." Like, it just felt like you just kept going like, well, that's not going to turn out good for anybody when someone's doing this thing.
Nope. Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend.
And we've been waiting a long time for this because this movie was pushed off.
Yeah, I kind of tempered my expectations for this one because it was like this, and like they're all the movies that were going to be coming out, and then COVID fucked everything up. Like Antebellum was another one that I haven't seen it, but I remember everyone was excited about it. But now I've heard so much negative about it. I know I still need to check it out myself, but I had heard a lot.
Shudder?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
But I do know, I know a lot of people who didn't seem to really like Saint Maud, but I thought it was wicked. It's my kind of horror. Like I love this. Like it's pretty art house, but it's centered around religion and just really creepy imagery and performances. I really liked it.
I think for the most part at this point, if you're gonna watch, not that we're gonna talk about how much we love A24 all over, but at this point, if you're going into one of their movies expecting it to be anything other than a little bit depressing, you're probably lying to yourself. There always are going to be those. I think that's one thing that they do well is they always have a little bit of a real human element. There's always some character you can be like, oh, that's a real person when watching those.
Well, I think the words you're looking for is it's elevated horror.
Right. I didn't have my tea and monocle, so I didn't want to open that whole bag right there because we got to pop champagne when that starts talking.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I don't understand that. I'm like, isn't it just horror?
Yeah. No, exactly.
No, it's thinking man's horror or whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand this one.
Yeah, I don't want to go near those groups that you were talking about, Mitch. Like, I don't want to be in a A24 like appreciation page. I feel like it would be so up its own ass.
That's exactly what it is. I could only handle it for so long. Now I'm just full blown insane. Alexis, hit us with a couple more, and then we'll go on to our main feature.
All right, well, this one is another comic adaptation. So I've watched the TV show, got hooked, and then started reading the comics because I always like to see the source material. It's either one way or the other. I read the comic, then I watched the source, or like watch the show, and then or vice versa.
Well, you know what? So at least either way, you finish it all off. Is that you're getting both halves of it? You just decide whichever is more available, I guess.
Yeah, or what's better, because sometimes like one is better than the other. Often, like the actual source material is better.
Up until Adam Wingard's Death Note.
Oh God!
Of course.
Yeah,
I know.
How could we forget about that?
Amazing manga. It's pretty good anime too, and I haven't even. I couldn't get past the preview.
I didn't hate it.
I attempted it. Yeah.
I'm like the only person on earth who kind of liked it. Like I've seen it more than once.
And you know what's weird is I still remember that. Like, I don't know why the fuck of all the things I remember is that you were kind of okay with it and that the world hated it.
Well, I think it was because like we were about to record and Diego had turned it off and I had watched it twice at that point. And like, I started talking about how I liked it and Diego was just getting so mad.
Yeah.
He's just like, but I like the anime a lot as well. I've seen all of the anime, but I think I just didn't think the movie was as trash as everyone else thinks it was. But I'm an idiot, so fuck it. What were you talking about before I brought up Adam Wingard's Death Note?
The Boys. So Amazon Prime TV show, but it comes from a graphic novel series. And so I recently just finished season 2 of The Boys. Absolutely batshit insane. Like, it's like I feel like you could almost somehow squeeze it into horror because
it's more violent than any horror movie I've seen in a long time.
It's the most graphic shit I've ever seen on TV, I think, and the most like horrifying. Like, so if you can if you take that and then you look at comics, are always like 100 times more graphic than that. So I was just so curious as to well, the TV show is already this graphic and fucked up. Like, what does the source material look like?
Especially since it's a Garth Ennis book. Like, so Garth Ennis, he did Crossed, which Buzi's not a fan. Yep. See, he did that, but he has also done like some of his Punisher stuff is some of my favorite. But he did Preacher. And Preacher is fucking crazy violent as well. But yeah, sorry, I have read the Boys comic book series. What did you think of it?
Well, I've only started off with like the first book so far, so I feel like I'm just kind of getting into it, and they haven't really there hasn't been like too much interaction with like the Seven yet, which is like the whole focus of the TV show.
Yeah.
Is like kind of like this it's almost like a parody Justice League, but like a really fucked up, depraved version.
It's like if the Justice
Superman
League,
people, like
it's like if the Justice League was in charge of like World Star or like Barstool Sports.
Barstool Sports.
Like it's the Justice League, but like trashy.
Oh God, yeah, so trashy. But yeah, no, I love that show. It's amazing. It's so good. I like highly recommend that everyone checks it out. Just like that, just the first episode. I think it's even within the first 10 minutes. Like
when their arms get blown off,
will be on the floor. Yeah, you see, this is spoiler.
Well, no, it's in the first episode, but when he's holding her hands and then her body disappears and her arms are still holding onto him. I showed that to Buzi, like when, because Buzi does not like anything superhero related. And I was like, dude, just look at this, give it a shot. And yeah, I remember we both laughed pretty hard.
But that's why I think if you hate superheroes, that is like the show for you, because it feels like someone who hates superheroes made that show to be like, it's making fun of them. Superheroes are stupid and they're fucked up and let's go kill them all.
Yeah.
You know what it kind of like, not that I've seen that much like outside of what Mitch showed me, so like maybe 5 minutes, is that it kind of reminds me of like, I want another Mystery Men.
We are the only ones, Buzi, and I say we because I agree.
Dude, that like we need something like that again. Like Mystery Men was such a hole in the wall, like cool niche movie from way back.
Yeah, it was the movie that had Smash Mouth in it before Shrek.
That's a big deal, honestly.
Yeah. But okay, yeah, so thumbs up on the Boys TV series, eh?
Oh, yeah. Big thumbs up.
Awesome. Hey, Alexis, did you happen to prepare that top 5 for me?
I did. I know you like lists.
Yeah, I love lists. And Alexis, you actually made this list before. I didn't even ask you to make a list. And you were like, hey, I have this idea. And I'm like, that's a great idea.
I was on it. That's just like how prepared I was this time. I was like, I know Mitch likes lists. I probably should come up with a list of some sort.
And Buzi's going to like this list. So why don't you share what this list is going to entail?
Okay, so I essentially made a list of my top 5 favorite movies that have been introduced to me by the Terror Table. And so these movies have become like some of my all-time favorite movies. Like I would include them in my top 20 or 100. Yeah. I don't know what
First of all, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So yeah, these are movies that I, especially because I feel like these are all movies that I might not have come across on my own.
Right. I like this idea. I think that every episode should be this, and all our mail from now on should just be like, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, I think it was it Bryson maybe?
Bryson did this.
Where he said like, these are the movies that you guys introduced me to that like I went back and checked out.
And number 1 was Jaws. I'll never forget that he had never seen Jaws.
So wild.
And I'm just so happy. Like that's what there's no shame in not seeing a movie or seeing a movie late. Like not everyone's a complete fucking weirdo like me who just like literally barricades my windows and watches movies from morning to night. Not everyone's like that. I do this for you guys. It's not just crippling depression. I do it for you guys.
Yeah, it's so true though. Like Jaws is shocking, but like I also like I probably would have never went back and watched The Thing, like the original Thing, if it wasn't for you guys.
Really?
So yeah, I had never seen it, and sometimes it's hard. Like you just don't go back and watch those movies. So, all right.
Let's start with number 5, or I guess you can do whatever you want.
I didn't really so these are all movies that I love equally that I couldn't actually put them into an order. So this is not in order, but there is 5 of them.
This is just the greatest hits.
Greatest hits, yeah. So
Big Shiny Terrors.
Turbo Kid.
Yes.
Hey.
When did you watch Turbo Kid?
I feel like you guys talked about it within your first few episodes of when you started the Terror Table. So it definitely would have been within the first year.
Yeah, I know Diego and I, like, that's where we really, like, we bonded on a million movies, but Turbo Kid was one of the movies that Diego and I really bonded on. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the first movies that I was just like, I would probably never have discovered that, and had never seen anything like it. And I was like, well, maybe these guys know what they're talking about. Maybe they do have some taste.
And that movie has Alexis Olynyk written all over it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Totally. Yeah, could totally see you loving that one. Well, that's awesome. Let's keep her going.
No, I loved it. So I loved that you guys got Monroe Chambers on. It was awesome to hear him talk about it even briefly.
Yeah, he's a goat.
Yeah,
literal greatest of all time.
He's been goated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I was so excited to tell you guys about Knuckleball. Like, because I had seen that.
You were the one who told me about it.
I was the one who told you guys about it because I saw it at a film festival when it first came out, and the director that you got on to talk about, Michael Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a Q&A at the bar that I was working at after we watched the film. And yeah, Monroe Chambers was like the villain in it. And like you said, Buzi, like I only knew him from, he was in Degrassi, and then Turbo Kid, he was still kind of a pretty innocent kid. So to change roles like that.
Yeah, it's such a difference.
Yeah. I was like, man, you got to check this out. Because
have you watched Harpoon yet?
Inside too. No, I haven't. I'm really excited to see that now, though.
Yeah, you'll like Harpoon.
Yeah. All right. So number 2 is Cabin in the Woods.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Mitch's number 1.
Oh yeah, I loved it. That's a perfect example of like I had no idea what I was going in for. For some reason, I think I had just went so long without seeing it because I assumed it was just one of those like typical teenagers in the woods going crazy or getting killed off, but like a serious tone, like I didn't just from the name even, I guess that's kind of what you think. It is that, but like the craziest twist on it. So that was like a super fun movie. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch that one again. A lot of them are fun, or at least these, but yeah, most of them. So the next one is Attack the Block. So another one that you guys probably talked about within the first year.
That's like one of Diego's favorite movies. So yeah, he used to talk about it a lot. Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
got a big case of missing the Diego right now.
Yeah, that's a super fun movie. And so that actually, I'm really glad that you checked out was it Vampires versus the Bronx recently, because I feel like you can't compare because it's like totally different qualities, or I don't know.
One's PG and one's hard R.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I just got that same feeling where it's just like fun, you're just like watching it you're watching these people, like
you're having a great time watching. Like I feel like I had a lot more
out of their neighborhood, like I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I had a lot more fun with these kids than I did with like certain points with a lot of the kids in It. Like I had more fun with these kids just chilling out, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally, because I know that one didn't do very well, or hadn't heard much good things about it. But I know I had some fun watching it. I don't remember much of it now, but
because you were blazed.
Probably.
Let's put everyone on blast here about that.
Yeah. Fucking Canadians.
It's all legal here.
Yeah.
I made my own brownies when I went to go see Freaky. I took one of them because I was like, this is going to be a fun movie. This is the right time.
That's a good movie to do.
I actually gotten high just from licking the spoon while I was making them. So gives you an indication of how strong that shit was.
Yeah, that should have been like an inclination. Like maybe I'll just lick the spoon and go.
That was like Buzi. That was like me and Buzi when we got that cake from Mama Fox. Fox.
Shout out Mama Fox.
And we watched Hubie Halloween. we were on in a whole other planet.
Well, I don't think you. It just, I couldn't bring myself to watch it, but I don't think you could have watched it sober. So
it was painful.
Yeah, that's another one that I think Buzi and I hate more than most people, surprisingly. Like, I'm like, I did not see it going this way. I totally thought that we were going to be the ones who like might like it a bit more than everyone else, but it was the complete inverse.
I feel like I give a lot of things a chance, and I just hated it. So I still, just thinking about it, I want to go like, if Adam Sandler was walking around, I'd get out and punch him for that.
Oh, shut up, man. Adam Sandler is
seriously
GOAT.
No,
when was the last time you put out anything good?
Uncut Gems. It's like one of the best movies I've seen in the last 10 years.
Okay, before that,
Think about all the horrible things he's put you through.
I like funny people. Man, That's My Boy was hilarious. And that's a movie that I did not want to see. I didn't. And then I watched it. Granted, I was heavily high, but like it worked and it helped. I had a good time. Zabahoo. All right, keep going.
Another fun one would be Trick or Treat.
Hey.
Kind of shocking since I'm such a huge Halloween fan that I had never seen this movie somehow. But I feel like I watched it for the first time, even maybe only like 2 Halloweens ago, and now, or 3, and now it's like one of those movies that's guaranteed I have to watch this every Halloween.
It's essential.
It is. It's a modern classic. I will say about that, not that other movie that you said, Mitchell.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh yeah, so good. And I did not realize, or had no idea, it was kind of like almost an anthology style as well. But blended and worked so well together. Yeah. And like, and Buzi probably like one of the coolest werewolf scenes. Like
it is really solid. You know, it feels like you want more from those, right? Because they're good looking werewolves and it's a fun premise. It's just it just gives you only a little bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also just loved that, because weren't they dressed up as, maybe they're just dressed up as like princesses, but I kind of envisioned them as like Disney princesses turning into werewolves, like
they were doing
out of their gowns.
I think they're just supposed to be Red Riding Hoods.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, so good. I love that.
Great movie. All right, and the final one. So we got Turbo Kid, Cabin in the Woods, Attack the Block, Trick or Treat. So those are 4 great movies.
Drum roll. Train to Busan.
Train to Busan.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's
a heavy hitter list.
Oh man, one of the best movies I've ever seen, honestly. Like, not even just horror, like that movie, it made me laugh, it made me cry. Like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Like,
so good.
It's just a masterpiece. Like,
yeah, totally. And it really added a lot of life to the, like we mentioned this before, added a lot of life to the zombie genre that was kind of we mentioned stale.
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you. Because those
you're welcome.
Those movies have changed my life.
Well, that's awesome. Like, that makes me so happy. And I know, like, because I think we became friends, like, after the Terror Table had started. But then you started Leslie and everything. And it means a lot. And we have become friends because of our connection through horror. So I'm really happy to know that our show could give you some movies that, like, mean a lot to you, because that's what the whole show's based on. But yeah, I'm going to start getting sappy here. So let's go on to the main feature. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
On our way to the main feature, which is Voices.
That's a lot of cheese sandwiches to eat in one sitting. 41?
And that tiny Sonia Thomas always wins. And now a grimmer story. A woman murdered. Her partial remains dumped in the woods.
So sad.
So terrible. Reporter Sheila Hammer has an Action 1 News exclusive.
The grisly discovery Tuesday near Milton of an unidentified female stabbing victim has local police on the hunt for a serial killer.
Jerry, you're a serial killer.
Sheriff Weinbacker.
No, he isn't.
Now, with the aid of the FBI, we have developed a profile of the unknown killer. Male, late 20s or early 30s, white, lower middle class, trouble fitting in.
That's you, Jerry. Can I have an autograph? Shh.
Will he kill again?
Well, if it's not stopped soon, every indication is he will kill again.
You hear that, punk?
No.
You're a killer.
God.
A serial killer.
I don't want to be a killer.
Too late! There's no turning back. You're a stone-cold murdering maniac.
Told you so.
Told me so what?
Well, I told you like killing. And now the cops, they say the same thing.
Jerry.
All right, and we have reached our main feature presentation, in which we were talking about Alexis Olynyk's pick, The Voices, which was released in 2014. So this movie, it cost $11 million to make, and it brought in $444,000. So this is one of those movies that I think when Alexis gave a list of films that she wanted to talk about on the show, this was number 1. And it was for the reason that this is a movie that a lot of people still haven't seen, or they have yet to get to it, or even know that it exists.
I had no idea this existed.
Yep, yeah. There you go. So
it somehow just like slid under the radar.
I remember I saw it in 2014 when it came out, because like I was super heavily like up on everything on bloodydisgusting.com. So anytime they shared a new movie, I was like, I would do my research in on it. And this one has Ryan Reynolds, Gemma Arterton, and
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick. Yeah. And it's like this. So it's just one of those movies. It's like, how is this not the biggest movie in the world? Or even, you know, at least a pretty moderate success. And when I saw the movie, I understood why to an extent, but I'm looking forward to getting into it today. So it is like, it follows Ryan Reynolds, who plays Jerry, who's working in a toilet and fixture factory. He boxes.
I thought it was a tub factory.
A bathtub factory.
Yeah, well, it's fixtures. Like they definitely have toilets in there as well, but you see him packing up bathtubs and everything.
Man,
and
Mitch, were you assessing their situations there? You're like, what kind of sink you got over there? Like, what's going on? I could set that shit up.
Those days are behind me, my man. I'm over the plumbing shit.
Oh, come on. You don't have like a little part of you? Like that shit's going to live with you forever? You're going to be thinking about plumbing on shit? If
anything, this movie just shows that like his line of work, which is, yes, different from a plumber. Like he's working in basically a plumbing warehouse. It's not glamorous work, and it's not fun, happy-go-lucky like the way that he makes it look like it is in the first couple minutes of the movie. So that's even something that we can talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, we followed Jerry, who, you know, we're introduced to him as this kind of shy, awkward person working in a
loser. Like that's how you're kind of sold to him being kind of a loser.
He's nice, he's charming, but you can tell he's off. He's a little socially awkward.
Awkward, yeah, kind of off-putting, but
socially awkward,
but good intentions. I don't know.
His coworkers are kind of rude to him, and he begins hearing voices that are voiced from his cat, which I believe is Mr. Whiskers.
Yes.
And his dog Bosco. So he has conversations with them, and they basically try to, they're his friends. They help him decide if he's going to continue the medication that he was given from his psychiatrist.
Well, they're very much the angels and devil on your shoulder concept through the whole thing. And I think one funny thing we could mention before I get too into this is Ryan Reynolds voices all of these things. He does a ton of voice work in this movie, which is another actually kind of fun thing is he shows some range.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, he's just he's a man who has a vocal relationship with his soft southern country dog Bosco and his evil Irish cat. Is it Irish or British? I don't know.
I thought it was Irish or something like that.
Yeah, some of it.
No, Scottish, because he based it off of his Scottish friend that he's known for like 20 years, and he always did impressions of him. So.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he was able to.
A little bit of insider info right there.
Yeah.
So you know Ryan Reynolds.
About the voices as well. Well, no, just I thought it was really cool that he did the voices of the dog and the cat, because I was reading an interview that he did when this movie came out, and he said that they were actually trying to cast people for those voices to do the voice acting, but he actually auditioned himself. And just recorded himself doing a full conversation with like as the dog and the cat and Jerry, and then sent it to him to be like, I think like these are Jerry's voices. They're in his head. Like they should be Jerry's voices. And then he just gave them accents and kind of a bit of a personality so he could make them different, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you imagine him bursting into the wrong office to do that whole thing, and he'll just go right into the skit, and someone's watching Ryan Reynolds do 3 different voices for no reason?
Yeah, and so this movie it's directed by Marjane Satrapi, and it was written by Michael R. Perry. And I guess we can just kind of get into it now. So how you guys want to go about this? I guess let's go with Alexis. Alexis, why did you choose this movie? And what made it stand out to you as something that you wanted to talk about on the Terror Table? Exactly
the reason that you said, that it just it didn't do very well, which I didn't really understand, because I think it's a well done movie. I think it's really fun. But I think maybe it was marketed more towards like a general, because I remember seeing trailers for it, and maybe it was marketed more to a general audience, and I don't think a general audience would enjoy this movie. No. This is a movie, if you love dark comedies and you have a really fucked up, dark sense of humor like we do, then this is your style. So that, I mean, as you can see, like even from the list that I gave you guys, like I do really enjoy the combination of horror and comedy. Like I kind of see it as PB and J. Like they're so good on their own, but they're even better together.
Yeah.
Kind
Absolutely.
of like I've realized like coming up with like lists for you like guys here and there of the years of like my favorite movies, and the ones that always tend to stand out for me are those like horror comedies or dark comedies. So it just it fit into that. I don't think there's been enough eyes on it, so I just want to tell people about it and get it out there so more people watch it. I don't think it gets enough praise. And to be honest, I think that this is Ryan Reynolds' best performance in a movie ever, maybe other than Deadpool. But keep in mind, I also haven't seen Buried. I haven't seen Buried yet, but
Buried's actually, I was going to bring that one up on this episode too, because like that's a really good. Well, I've only seen it once, but I really liked it when it came out.
I remember liking it when it came out too. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing though, Reynolds, he's had such an interesting career. Like you look at that guy and he's had so many movies that would have destroyed other lesser actors' careers. Like, you know, you're looking at Green Lantern and R.I.P.D. and
R.I.P.D. I think that movie's on Tubi. Like if that really correlates to I'm pretty sure it's on Tubi.
And that's Jeff Bridges too, man. Like, you know, like it just goes to show, like, I don't know if Reynolds has and I also don't know if he's had the same manager all these years, but he either has the best manager or the fucking worst, because they never really know where to put him.
No, I think he was struggling to find out, because it kind of seemed like, he had a bunch of, kind of misses leading up to this. And then it sounded like, from the sounds of it, like from his interviews, it sounded like he wanted to turn that around and wasn't like, oh, well, I shouldn't just follow where the money is, because it doesn't matter how good I am, the movie can still be a total piece of shit.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
started to look for like scripts and directors that he really believed in, and thought, well, it needs to be a good movie. It needs to be a good script. And then I can do my job better. And I think that this was kind of the turning point for him.
Yeah, well, it's definitely like, he's had a few of those, but this is definitely one that shows the range that he's capable of and what he's really capable of as an actor. He's not just Van Wilder in this. He's not just Deadpool. I think that Deadpool is what has, he found his exact spot in the world as Deadpool. Like, he's just so good in that role. But that doesn't mean that he can't pull off like crazy little movies like this. And I love that a guy like him, who even had so much success prior to this, took on a movie like The Voices that, expects so much from its lead. And he definitely carries the movie. He's the great in this movie. Is
like 90% him, right? Because he's three characters, really.
Yeah. Well, and then this is another movie where we spend most of the time with our antagonist, who just happens to be in a weird way fairly likable, and even some of the more gross decisions he makes, it's just kind of the relationships he has with the things around him that make it kind of like he's doing kind of nice things in a weird way. Like he wants people to have friends and stuff like that. And he's doing basically what they ask and kind of going about an interesting way of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're looking.
He does a really good job of making like he's a serial killer really in this movie, but he does a good job of making it a somehow relatable and likable character.
Yeah, that's kind of
you feel sorry for him the whole time, like It's kind of that Tucker and Dale versus Evil effect almost, I feel like, where, like these poor, innocent, unassuming guys, like they have good intentions, but there's just people dying in front of them.
Right. Yeah.
He's a little bit more involved in this, but...
Yeah. Well, I think something with this too, like what changes that dynamic is that we're watching the movie from his perception. Like we're watching this movie from his point of view, and, leading, especially like you watch I'll just get it out of the way right now that I was really excited when you recommended this one, because it is one that kind of slipped my mind. Like I know I saw it when it came out, but I haven't seen it since, and I haven't thought about it much since because you hear no one talking about it. But I do remember really liking it. So upon a rewatch, like rewatching it rewatching it yesterday, I realized, like there's so much really good stuff in here. But the thing is, it is one of those movies that there's so many drastic tonal shifts, and it's because you're watching from the perception of a psychopath and someone who's severely mentally ill. And that changes like the whole, that if there's like a negative to say about the movie, which isn't even really a negative, it's just that it makes it less enjoyable the further it goes on, and it starts becoming more and more real. And it transitions from like darkly comical to sad. And that's also like kind of an important arc to have in a movie dealing with this kind of subject matter, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe why it missed its mark a little bit, because people went into it thinking like this is a comedy, and you come out of it being like that was fucking depressing. Kind of like in the same sense of like I feel like I went into that with Colossal, where I thought the same thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Totally.
And you come out of it being like, what did I just watch? Like I'm destroyed.
I've spent a lot of time talking about Colossal this week. That is wild that you brought that, because that's a very good comparison.
Yeah, it's the only movie I could think of that made me feel the same way, you know?
Yeah, where there's a line in the sand where it changes.
Yeah.
At the beginning, like we feel for Jerry and like believe that he truly means well and he's just severely mentally ill. But like as the story unfolds, you're given the many hurdles that he struggles with to just take his medication. And so this is another movie that like deals very heavily with like, well, I think that's what, if there's something that does the best at, is understanding why people who are mentally ill don't want to take their medication.
Yeah.
And
that is the one thing that I've never seen tackled in a movie, which I know for a lot of people, it is a difficult process on a daily basis.
Yeah. And that's like, it's not only just because, you know, like for some people it's financial reasons, but for him, it's clearly he's lonely. He doesn't want to be alone. And in his little world that he's living in, it's so fun and bubbly, and it's almost like a 50s sitcom-y type vibe that he has to his life, where everything's just so light, and he's just trying to be joyous. And then he has this like goofy cat and this goofy dog that talk to him. You feel so bad for him wanting to get better, but him being better is him being lonely and have no excitement in his life and be barely alive. And that's the thing with a lot of people who have struggles with the wrong medications. They're given the wrong medications and it just makes them feel dead inside, and they don't want to do anything, and everything just feels gray. And then they're like, but it also cures them of their ailments and like their mental struggles. But in this case, I'm pretty sure Buzi talks to his cats and dogs like that on the regular.
Oh, all the time. I am just waiting. Honestly, I'm just waiting for Loomis to be like, do it, dude. Just let's go to town. And I'll be like, of course, man. Like, let's do it.
You live in constant fear.
Yeah, totally. I want to hop in on this and just talk about overall, because I'm the only one here who's seen this for the first time. Because I did not know this fucking thing existed before, which is very interesting. Because
yeah,
it does
so
seem
excited to hear what you have to say, Buzi, because I didn't even know that you were going to be here today. So I was very excited because I knew that this would be a movie that you would probably, hopefully enjoy.
Yeah, I said the same thing to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's just, it does feel weird that it didn't get a bigger rollout, because it kind of reminds me of in the same realm of like a Warm Bodies, maybe something in that kind of realm. And like Warm Bodies, I don't remember much of, and I can't remember. I don't think people loved it, but you know, that was a movie that probably didn't need to be in theaters. But you know what I mean? Like, I think this movie should have been in theaters, honestly. And the thing is that I'll say is this is right down the middle, like a 2.5 out of 5 for me. Like it's such a 50-50 movie, because yeah, there's a ton of great stuff in this movie, and I think the premise alone and a lot of the story in it up until the ending for me is great. I think this is what you want from a movie, and I think Anna Kendrick is great in this, and I do think Ryan Reynolds carries this in such a fun way, and he is such a likable guy. Like he is definitely like one of the greatest exports Canada has ever provided, because you know, he's just genuinely sweet and a likable person. Even in this movie, when he's doing terrible things, he is likable, and maybe that's a bit of a detriment if this movie wanted to be a little bit darker, because he is sometimes the light in his own dark movie. And then the other thing I'll say is that with that being said, that the story was like a great idea, is that it just felt so clunky. Like it did all the things that it should have done, it just wasn't as charming as I wanted. And that was really a bummer, because it has all these right elements. I don't know why it didn't come together well. And that's totally why it's a 50-50 for me, because there's so much going for it, and so many times where there are fun things. And then there's other times, like maybe it was lacking a little bit more humor or ad libs, because I think the humor didn't always land as it should have. Because if the humor was really good in this would be a great movie. This would be like if Taika Waititi could have like slapped some shit in here, it would have been great. And I think it had all the right structure. It had good bones. There was a good house here. I don't know. It's a bummer that it didn't hit harder.
I think I'm right in the middle of both of you then, because I agree. I even wrote down in my notes that it's that it does feel clunky for me in the way that like in between scenes of him, exacting his situation and him like actually going fully manic. Mm-hmm. That's the best part of the movie. Like when he's actually talking to his animals, I think that those scenes are fucking hilarious. Specifically the one where he's talking to his cat and his dog while they're watching like animals fuck, and then they start eating each other. Like that whole scene is like, you take that like 4-minute clip out of that movie, that's a 5 out of 5 clip. Like that's 5 out of 5 amazing scene. So funny. But then it's the jumping in between different scenarios where it just gets less interesting because we're so accustomed to his outlook.
Right. I think if I could quantify the things I don't like into one thing, it's the therapist storyline altogether. Mm-hmm. I think you have such a fun story that you didn't need. Like it was like over explanation. If you just had the story of a guy who didn't want to take his meds, I don't need his backstory. That's all we need to know, right? That's a fine enough character as it is. Honestly,
I think it's important to show the parent stuff, man.
Dude, it was giving me like Black Xmas vibes here. I was just like, I don't fucking care. Like he's a dude who needs some help.
I think it's a necessary evil to show a little bit of that background because it does come into play at the end. Like right.
Then that's what I feel like is the too ambitious part of it is like that ending was. Did we need something that big out of that? I think that was way too much flash, and it's like they had extra budget and they're like, yeah, just put more and more people in here. Like, I don't know. It could have been solved easier that way. And maybe that's just me nitpicking, but I hated that whole storyline of the therapist. I didn't like her character. Like, maybe she needed a dog that he could have like. That would have been cool if she also had a dog and he would just listen to that dog. Like, punch shit out. Like, that would have made it a better movie.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with both of you in different ways because I would say like those are the weak points for sure. Is like the flashbacks and the backstory. Like it definitely like takes you out of it. It's a very different vibe. It's almost like a different movie that you're kind of peeping into. That's all of a sudden inserting itself into the story.
It's very serious and weird.
The talking sock, though. The talking sock.
I don't know. Like, I felt like they just had done such a good job already of writing his character and portraying it that, like, I already fully understood, like, kind of where the type of person he was and where he was coming from. And
exactly.
And, that I didn't feel like, it gave it, it's like it tried to give it a bit more depth and reasoning to why he's doing the things he does, but I didn't feel that it was necessary. And I feel like we could have almost done without it. And it would have been.
Because it's trying to be a fun movie, right? It's not like we're watching Maniac. That's the thing. Is like this should be also a lot more fun.
It's pretty comparable. A good double feature with the voices would be Maniac, like Elijah Wood's Maniac.
And I think
I still need to check it out.
And even the way Mitch talked about like the best parts are the animal parts. You should have went full in on that, and like he would be walking down the street and random shit like birds and stuff, And I know that like because they had to edit that all in there with the mouths and shit, it might be annoying, but you could figure out ways to do it. But it would have made it more fun because it just seemed like we spent a lot of time at his dreary job, which I know is supposed to be part of this, but there's a lot of. I felt like it was a little too much in there because this is a longer film.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely too long for what it is.
Like I don't care about his job that much. I get it, but I do appreciate any movie that puts in a forklift choreographed dance sequence, like drive sequence. Really appreciated that. I'm glad that those certified people are there.
The fact that this movie ends with Jesus driving a bright pink forklift.
Yeah.
which they did not deserve. That like funnier movies should have gotten that movie. I'm sorry. Like I actually did like this movie, but like that was too good for the ending of this movie.
That's the thing, man. There's so many moments in this movie that I think like it strikes gold so many times throughout it, but then it's just kind of jarring. But that's why I think that's where I'm kind of with Alexis, where the good outweighs the bad because the good is that good. Like, I think that, I even wrote down a couple quotes, but I just love, even, like, you just mentioned the toilet factory, Buzi. I like that when the movie starts off, it's really bubbly and bright and everything. It's almost every time he goes back to it, though. Yeah. Every time he goes back to it, it slowly starts, like, it's like, that's not the same place he was at in the beginning. And that's what's kind of it's really smart about that, because it's showing, like, what his mania looks like. What when he's like fully torqued, like for lack of better words, like when he's having an episode, the world is just a way happier, funnier, bubblier place. And that's why I love when he says to the one guy, I just have it pulled up here. You have the greatest hair, John, like in the back. Like when the guys, because he's like
balding on top.
Yeah, he's got the eagle's nest. So he's just like, he's showing love to the hair that is there.
That just shows Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds in this role, and he really puts his skills to use in that. I think.
Feel like they didn't let him say the things that would have made it funny, because he's a funny guy,
dude. I don't know how you could have made the scene funnier where he, what's her name, Gemma Arterton's character.
No, I'm not saying overall, like
Fiona,
or that it didn't have like funny parts in it, but I feel like I don't know, and that's just me saying there's so much that could have been done here. It needed a couple of Andy Samberg jokes once in a while, but not like too many. Just like one or two more fart jokes for me. And I think Ryan Reynolds was the right person for this. Like, I don't know. It's just,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but also I find it hard.
He hasn't had his Deadpool phase yet, where he can just say any stupid shit that he wants.
No, but
are you kidding? He was in Amityville Horror, looking cut as fuck in 2003. He should be allowed to have the keys to the city.
That's the hottest a man has ever looked.
that is the ideal male body. That is peak performance.
That is like, okay,
so this is where I disagree with you guys like a little bit, because I can see, like, I totally understand that like these are the reasons that take people out of the movie, like the tonal shifts, and that like it's way more depressing than you expect going into it, because you kind of go in expecting a comedy, and that maybe it's just like not quite funny enough. But I guess I think because I've seen it a few times, that now every time I've seen it, it gets better, because I think I felt like that the first time I watched it, but every time I watch it now I have a better understanding going in, like that this is like the purpose, like this was the writer and the director's purpose of the movie, and those, like you said, those tonal shifts are like that's a reflection of the like Jerry's mania, right, or like his illness, and I think that too, because I think if it was just funny and it was just making fun of his schizophrenia the entire movie, then it would not. Then it would be a problem. It would not have the same effect. And I think it taking itself a little bit more seriously and getting a little bit on the depressing side, maybe a little too real, and you don't end the movie feeling very good. I feel like it needs that.
I agree.
Able to take that money or take that movie a little bit more seriously, or otherwise this movie could very easily be offensive, I think.
Oh yeah. I know, and I'm not saying it needed to be like over the top. This did not need to be like Hot Rod. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But like, I feel like the times, because Jerry is a very likable character, so the times when it was funny, it should have hit a little bit harder, because it makes you appreciate all the darker points of this movie. I don't know. It feels so dull to me when it's not that funny.
Because I agree with you guys that it's like almost.
Don't rope me in with him. I'm agreeing with you. I agree with you. Don't rope me in with him. Like,
no, but you said that it was too long, and I do agree that like it could be shaved down, and I think the scenes that would be kind of need to be shaved down would be those ones where it's showing more of his his life at the factory and with his coworkers and
with
whatnot.
Therapist.
Yeah, with the therapist. But
rework that whole situation.
Yeah, I thought you just said before that you liked it, and I was saying that I didn't.
No, What I'm saying is that the comedy highs, I think, are so fucking high. Like when he picks up Fiona and she's shit faced and they're in the car and he hits that deer and the deer flies through the window. That was so.
That was the funniest part of that movie.
The fourth angel is Lucifer.
He says, yeah, like he's talking. She's like, you know, in a state of. Like she just got in a car accident. She's like, what's going on? What's going on? And there's this deer head hanging in the car windshield. And it's like saying, kill me, Jerry, kill me. And he's like, Lucifer is a fallen angel. And he starts slicing its neck. It's like, that's the scariest thing you could ever imagine. Imagine being in a car with a man who's driving you home. And then he starts going like, no, I have to cut its throat. Lucifer is a fallen angel. After getting in a car
accident. Yes.
Cut my throat.
Don't worry, I'll help you.
What? No, Jerry!
I gotta do it! The fourth angel is Lucifer. What? Lucifer is an angel, a fallen angel.
Is that like it set up? It had to do that setup in the beginning, maybe a little bit too long, but it had to show those kind of almost more boring, happy parts of his life to be able to see that contrast of like the depressing reality, and for you to understand and be on the same page as the character as to like why they don't want to take their medication, like why they listen to their voices, and why they end up in this, going down this terrible path.
I just want to say that, Alexis, I'm going to point out something you had mentioned kind of right at the start, is trying to figure out where this movie sits, because it is way more gruesome than it had like any inclination that it was going to be. I was expecting a little more dainty, I guess, especially with how the opening is. And it is surprisingly gruesome, which credit for that.
Yeah, that's what I would say to people is like, don't go in expecting necessarily like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, that you're just going to have fun with it the entire time. Like if you've seen
it's a little more serious
or something like that, like that's more along the lines of what you're getting into.
And that's something that I appreciate tenfold more than the last time I watched it, because when I watched this in 2014, I would have been, 23, 24 years old. And I was at a phase where I wasn't super, not to say I'm so well versed in every single mental illness and everything, but it's I've had a lot more experiences over the last 6-7 years since this has come out, where it was actually bothering me to watch this movie again, and I actually wasn't sure if I was going to be able to finish it. And I know that I sound like a baby saying that, but the reason is because this type of disorder and mental illness has touched Saskatoon in a couple different ways. And it's really, really scary. And it's also a like really draining thought of how this shit happens all the time. Like that shit happens everywhere. You'll hear about like someone who's thinks that their parent is something that they're not, and they make a huge mistake when they're in a state of mania. And so it made it a little difficult to watch all the like comedic beats of those parts, like especially when he's putting their body parts in the fridge and they're talking back to him. And it's like, it kind of does feel like they're like, I realize this is a movie and I don't want to sound like a fucking baby by any means or anything here, but it's like, if you're very sensitive to the representation of victims in movies and stuff like this might not be the movie for you. But it at least attempts to have that conversation near the end of the movie, where it does get a lot more heavy. And like, that's why I think they at least did the right thing by trying to right those wrongs and, give an explanation as to why it was so funny for the first little bit. And eventually the joke wears off. So it's one of those movies, though, that if you're not okay with having like a drastic emotion change throughout the movie, then this isn't going to be a movie for you. Like it's definitely one that challenges you to go through the motions.
Yeah. And, I had a friend that was in the same situation that like had a family member personally that experienced the same things that you were talking about. And she I think she walked out within like the first 20 or 30 minutes of the movie and was like, I can't do this.
So.
Which I understood, but at the same time, like you said, I feel like it does more than that, and you get a very wrong impression of it just from those 20-30 minutes. And that's why I think it is important that it does do that tonal shift and shows it in a more real light. And I guess I was wondering, like, do people consider this movie like insensitive towards mental illness, or does it? Because for me, it was the first time, like you mentioned, it was the first time that I had ever seen the perspective of someone taking pills, and the difference that it created, like what their distorted reality looked like and what the pills did to them, and like why they wouldn't want to take them, and kind of like how strong those voices in their head were and why they were doing the things they were. Like I had never seen anything from that perspective before. So it made me, and then that's the whole point of the movie. It makes you sympathetic towards that character, right? And what they're going through. And then you see them as not just this serial killer, you see them as this very awfully mentally ill person that is very lonely and is almost acting out of that isolation and loneliness, and kind of almost that failed system, I guess.
Yeah. I entirely agree on that. And that's the thing, though, is it's like, this isn't one of those movies where, I can totally understand. Like, if I knew someone had gone through a similar situation or has had to deal with schizophrenia or bipolar or anything like that, like this is a sensitive subject. So it's like, well, right off the bat, this probably isn't a great idea for you, like, because they're going, like, I don't know, but it's better than them going the entire movie just being comedic and making a joke out of it. But at the same time, that's the detriment to the success of the movie, because it makes it a little less enjoyable when it gets real. And I do think that the real moments, like where it does get realistic, is where the movie falls a little bit. But I still admire the swing that it went for.
The ending was very anticlimactic.
I feel like they didn't know how to end it. They didn't know what they wanted to do with it.
It was too big for its britches.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like it was a very almost more of a realistic portrayal too, though, is like, if you go down that path, like what ending is there for you? You know, like, it's not going to be a very exciting ending. It's not going to be a happy one. It's I don't know. So I agree that I can never remember the ending. Like, it doesn't stick with me because it's not a good one. But then at the same time, I'm more accepting of it now. I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. Like what, I guess, like, what else would you do with it? But obviously more. I really like that they ended it with the dance sequence.
And the happy song.
Yeah. Happy song. For some reason, it worked so well for me with this movie, but it did not work for me with, I'm thinking of ending things.
Is that, what do you mean? Is the happy song in that?
No, like they did like a weird little dance sequence at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah. And you didn't like I'm Thinking of Ending Things, eh?
No, well, because I read the book, and so it was.
I like the movie more than the book.
Really?
I read the book twice, and I liked the movie more than I liked the book. But I did really like the book, but they're different entities. They're just very different.
Very different, yeah. Just that ending felt very. It didn't fit with the book or the movie. I feel like, like it wasn't. That ending wasn't in the book, but. Yeah,
that's Kaufman. He's just a weirdo. The guy who made that.
Such a strange movie.
Yeah. But no, and this one, like, I don't know, like, it's nice seeing Anna Kendrick in roles like this, or she just always pulls off these roles as the nice, kind person.
She's just so likable.
She's pretty similar in 50-50 even, which is the great cancer movie. Such a great movie.
That was a good movie. Yeah.
Hey, that has sugar in it. I love that movie.
Sugar?
Yeah. Don't you remember Sugar from YTV?
Oh, right. Yes.
She has a very small part in this movie. And she's the most, you as soon as you hear her, you know that's Sugar.
Yeah, you were the one that pointed that out to me too. I forgot about that. The chick with the super high voice.
I've always had like a little crush on her since I was
honestly,
a wee lad.
I think everyone has.
Is that Canadian? I think YTV is Canadian, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was out of Toronto.
So that funny thing that you mentioned with Anna Kendrick is what I really liked that was a little bit different about this too is they they like played into some tropes, but then they also didn't want to play into some to some horror movie tropes. So like just in general, in a slasher, typically you have these like scantily clad babes running around being murdered, right? And somehow with less and less clothing every time, and a lot of times that is like the objective is is killing all these females or finding these attractive females. And so I love that they put this very like, because they made him so unassuming that they're like, well, he did end up killing all these females, but it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't because he it wasn't even an attraction thing necessarily near the end. It just was an awful circumstance.
Yeah,
so like obviously they
he was making the best of it.
Yeah, they did the trope with like the first one, where she's running through the forest in her wet nightgown. But then with the second one, it didn't show that he's looking for another like female victim necessarily. It was just this lady from the office is really interested in him, and she's very, very kind and probably like the nicest person, or like the person that's been the nicest to him in his life ever.
And that's what I like about how he's not interested in her, because he's interested in Fiona, like Gemma Arterton's character, because she's that's why those scenes with the mom are crucial, because it shows the mom issues and where this trauma stems from, and also how she had schizophrenia of sorts as well. And that shit is just hereditary, unfortunately, a lot of the times. And, but yeah, like that's what makes it so heartbreaking when you see like him being shit on by Fiona constantly. And the only time she's nice to him is when she's drunk. But she's not even being nice to him. It's just, that's his perception. Like he just sees her as being nice to him because she's acting like how his mom acted to him. And his mom needs to love him, right? Like it's just a very good dissection of a serial killer and like what can cause someone to go down this path, this very like unstable path.
Mm-hmm. I loved the talking heads too.
Yeah, so good. I don't know, man. I loved all the every time the cat was talking, I was in. I thought and especially in Bosco too. Like you hear that, I am a good boy. I love that so much.
Remember, like last week when I was telling you that there's like an invisible line between good and evil, and that you were about to cross it. That I said, no, you're a good boy. Well, I've changed my mind.
Yeah, I know. I love that. You are not a good boy. So, you hear that? I earned the right to be called a good boy.
There's even the time where like obviously his cat is always like egging him on, and he's like, kill, you'll feel alive. Like, yeah. But then there's like the one, I don't even know if the animals weren't talking at this point because he wasn't on his, or because he took his medication. But I just remember he like was in that situation of like, oh shit, do I need to kill this person? And the cat just keeps like, is not saying anything, but he just keeps looking at the cat, and the cat, that death glare that it gives you, like, do it. Do it.
Yeah, no, it's a gleefully insane movie. And I definitely think it's, regardless of what you've been hearing on this episode, I think the point is that it's a movie worth seeing, because even if you're not going to love it, there's a lot to digest here. And it's a movie that no one, like, this has been a movie that so many people have missed. And it's definitely worth a look. Like, I don't know, the fact that it has Ryan Reynolds, Anna Kendrick, and Gemma Arterton is just insane that this isn't a bigger movie. But when you watch it, you're going to understand why. Because I do, like, I know, Alexis, you love this movie, and I can totally see what you love about it. And I'm happy that we were able to talk about it on the show.
Yeah, well, I've just come to love it more over time. I think I felt similar to you guys. The first time is maybe a little lackluster, or like you kind of don't quite vibe with it as much. But it's just something that I keep coming back to because it's just stuck in my mind somehow. Of like, wow, that was a ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
And then I get more out of it every time. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys got something out of it at least.
Oh yeah.
No, it was enjoyable. Like I said, I was 50-50 on, like, I sound like I was really down on it, but I still thought like it was a fun movie. So.
I just see a lot of you and Jerry Buzi, so that's why I thought that you were gonna. I thought this was gonna be.
He's just me fantasizing about forklift ballet.
Well, not only that, but I could see, like, you have birds in your house, you have dogs, you have cats, and I'm like, Boozy's alone a lot. Like, I'm sure you fucking talk to them.
And my newest addition, Slick Rick, which you guys got to see first, my fish, Slick Rick.
Yeah, and that's are they called Japanese fighting fish? Is that what they were called?
Yeah, and I really hate that they're at stores. I feel awful for these fish because they're supposed to be in running water. Sorry, this is just a little side tip.
But don't they fight with each other when they're put in the same tank?
Well, because they're in a enclosed. It's like putting sharks together. Of course, they're gonna.
It's like
they're supposed to be in streams and like doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So I rescued him, and now he's chilling.
It's like every time you and I are in the same room, we're always smooching.
It's true. You know what? We're like the magnets. We just come together.
Yeah, we're like the opposite of Japanese fighting fish, but with kisses.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I was thinking.
How long has it been since you guys have been in a room together?
It's been a while. It's been a while.
We talked about it a couple times.
Haven't felt the warmth of Buzi in a long time.
Yeah. If this is what, like, being in prison is like, is I don't get any conjugals from Mitch, then I don't want it.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alexis, thank you so much for coming on again. And I would ask, is there anywhere where our listeners can keep up with you? But I believe that you're kind of off everything right now.
Hey.
Which rules.
You're off the grid, huh?
I decided to go off the grid. I don't currently have the social medias. Avoiding them at the moment, but I didn't delete my accounts. So I'll definitely be back on them at some point. I just can't remember which one is which. They're both Lex Cecilia. One of them has an underscore in the middle.
I think, not to sound weird, but I think that's your Instagram, because I think that's the one that I use. Like, I use Instagram the most. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you're Lex. Yeah, Lex_Cecilia.
For Instagram, and then just one word, Lex Cecilia, for Twitter.
Hell yeah. So, thanks so much for joining again.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I actually got to catch you on here.
Yeah, me too. It was nice to actually talk to you, Buzi.
Surprise.
Next time I'll catch Kyle, hopefully.
Don't count on it.
Quick shout out then, speaking of Kyle, I finally checked out his EP.
Yes.
Was shocked to hear, because that's him screaming. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, this can't be.
You have no idea how nice it is as someone who's been it's been a couple years since I've been heavily involved, but I grew up in bands and playing in the music scene, and having your friends release CDs and having to pretend like they're anything other than dog shit. It's been so hard. But boy, is it nice when your friends release something that fucking rules, like River Slam. Like Kyle's band is very good. They're solid.
They're so good.
Yeah,
I was very impressed. And also, so like on that same tangent, I finally checked out, because you guys have been talking about this for so long, but is it Jambi's band?
Yeah, Jambi.
Swayze.
Yeah.
So good as well.
Yes. Swayze is one of my favorite bands, just bar none.
Pride of Saskatoon. Pride of Alvina, Saskatchewan.
Just some shout out Saskatoon music. Shout out Jambi. Shout out
Yeah. I went and watched the Snyder Cut at Jambi's cabin in the woods on Friday. Like, we were in the middle of nowhere on a 104-inch screen. We were watching the Snyder Cut. Yeah. We started it at 9:30 and finished it at 5:30 a.m. Like, because we took breaks, but it's a 4 fucking hour movie.
Jesus.
Buzi, imagine 4 hours of Superman and Wonder Woman.
It sounds like torture, honestly.
That sounds awful. Yeah, that does.
I would be Clockwork Oranged into that shit.
I hated it so much the first time, and you know how sick I am. I watched it again, and now I love it.
You?
Now I love it.
What's wrong with you?
I don't love it, but I definitely enjoyed it more when I wasn't blackout drunk and getting stoned the whole time with Jesse.
It's because Jesse wasn't there, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was super. That's the problem, though, is that when me and Jesse get together, it's always just a fun time. So it's super easy to laugh at a Snyder Cut. But yeah, either way, thank you so much for being here, Alexis. And we'll see you soon in person, hopefully. And see you soon on the podcast again. And thank you so much for everyone for listening to another episode of The Terror Table.